I didn't steal my own car. That was the first thing I told the cop while my sister stood 10 feet away crying like I just burned her whole life down. My name is Catherine. I was 30 years old. And up until that night, I really thought being the responsible daughter meant swallowing disrespect, paying bills that weren't mine, and pretending family loyalty was supposed to feel like a second job that paid nothing. Welcome back to the Payback Vault. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a story that's going to make you side-eye every family member who's ever hit you up for cash. We're talking about a woman who spent years being her sister's personal ATM, her parents' peacekeeper, and the family's emotional trash can. Then one night, her sister crossed a line so hard there was no coming back. And what Catherine did next? Deadass legendary. She didn't scream. She didn't break plates. She didn't post a messy Facebook rant. She built a binder, a black binder, with tabs. And inside that binder was every receipt, every text, every bank transfer, every lie, and every single time her family treated her like she didn't matter. This isn't a revenge story about destroying people. It's a revenge story about taking your own life back so completely that the people who used you can't even find the door anymore. So grab something to drink, get comfortable, because this one hits different. And before we get into the crash, the lie, and the moment everything changed, smash that like button if you've ever had a family member ask you for money and then act like you're the problem when you finally said no. Let's get into it. For years, Catherine's sister, let's call her Lisa because that's not her real name and we don't need any lawsuits, had a superpower. She didn't ask for help like a normal person. She created disasters and then waited for everyone around her to panic enough to rescue her. Rent late? That wasn't her fault. That was her manager cutting her hours. Credit card maxed out? She had no choice. Had to buy groceries, had to pay for gas, had to survive. Borrowed money and never paid it back? She'd act all hurt that you even remembered. Like you were being petty for keeping score. And Catherine, being the older sister, fell for it every single time. She paid Lisa's rent more times than she could count. She cleared credit card debt when Lisa called crying about being one bad month from losing everything. She covered late fees, loan payments, utilities, groceries, and once even a security deposit because Lisa conveniently forgot to save. And because Catherine kept helping, everyone in the family just assumed she always would. That's the trap right there. You help once, you're kind. You help twice, you're generous. You help 20 times, and suddenly it's not help anymore. It's your job. And nobody thanks you for doing your job. Catherine's parents were the real MVPs of this dysfunction. And by MVPs, I mean they were the coaches of the worst team ever. Every time Lisa needed money, her mom would call Catherine with the same tired lines. She's your sister. You're better with money. You know how she gets. And her dad would add, just help her this once, Catherine. We'll talk to her after this. But here's the thing. The talk never happened. The consequences never happened. Only the bill happened, and somehow it always found Catherine. She worked as an operations coordinator for a medical supply company in Denver. That meant her whole day was fixing other people's problems. Delayed shipments, scheduling messes, making sure everyone had what they needed. Then she'd come home and do the exact same thing for her family. She skipped vacations because Lisa needed rent. She delayed replacing her old laptop because Lisa needed a new phone. She once handed over her emergency credit card because Lisa promised, Pinky swore, that she'd only use it for gas. Lisa bought concert tickets with it, front row. And when Catherine confronted her, Lisa cried and said she was going through a hard time and needed to feel normal. And Catherine believed her, or at least she wanted to believe her, because the alternative was admitting that her own sister was using her. And that's a hard pill to swallow when you've been raised to believe that family is everything. But Catherine had one thing she protected like Fort Knox, her car. A gray Honda Accord. Nothing fancy. No leather seats, no rims, no subwoofers, but it was hers. She paid it off early. kept every maintenance receipt, treated it like freedom with wheels, and she had one rule: nobody drives it unless she's in the passenger seat. Why? Because Lisa had already wrecked one borrowed car in college, smashed the front end, blamed black ice, and convinced their parents it was just bad luck. Catherine wasn't about to become her next bad luck story, so the rule was ironclad: no exceptions. Lisa knew this. Lisa had been told this at least 10 times, and for a while she respected it. Or at least she pretended to. But then that Friday happened. Catherine was finishing a long shift, the kind where your brain feels like static and your feet hurt even sitting down. Her phone buzzed. Text from Lisa. "Borrowing your car tonight. Need it for something important. Don't freak out." Catherine's stomach dropped like she was on a roller coaster that just lost a bolt. She called Lisa immediately. Ignored. Called. Again. Nothing. Then Lisa texted, "Relax. You're always so dramatic." Catherine replied, "Do not take my car." No answer. And when Catherine got home, her parking space was empty. Just dark pavement and the ghost outline of where her Honda used to be. Here's where Catherine made her first mistake. Instead of calling the cops immediately, which would have been smart, she called her parents. Because in her head, they'd back her up. They'd be outraged. They'd say, "Oh no, Lisa went too far this time." That is not what happened. Her mom sighed like Catherine had just complained about a hangnail. "She probably just needed it for a little while, honey." Catherine said, "Mom, she took my car after I told her not to." And her mom lowered her voice like she was about to share state secrets and said, "Don't make this into a legal thing. She's under pressure." Then her dad got on the line. "No, are you okay?" "No, that's not right. Just, your sister doesn't need another lecture tonight. Just calm down. Calm down." Catherine's car was gone, taken without permission, and she was being told to calm down. That right there is a classic move. In dysfunctional families, when the victim speaks up, they get labeled as the problem. When the person who actually did something wrong cries, everyone runs to comfort them. It's backwards, it's insane, and it happens every single day in homes all across America. Catherine hung up the phone feeling like she was the crazy one. That's the gaslight. That's the special sauce of family manipulation, making you doubt your own reality so you'll shut up and keep paying. At 1:48 in the morning, Catherine's phone lit. Up. Lisa's name on the screen. She answered on the first ring because, even after everything, some part of her was still waiting for an explanation that made sense. On the other end, wind, traffic, a distant siren, and Lisa's breathing all fast and broken. Then 4 words that told Catherine everything she needed to know. "Don't be mad." Catherine asked, "Where are you?" Lisa started crying. "I hit something." Catherine's mouth went dry. First question she asked, and this tells you everything about their relationship. "Did you hit a person?" Lisa snapped back. "No. God, why would you even ask that?" Because with Lisa, Catherine had learned to check for the worst possible outcome first. That's what happens when you've been cleaning up someone else's messes for years. You stop assuming everything's fine. You start assuming something's on fire. Lisa gave her an intersection near the edge of town. Then she added the line that broke something loose in Catherine's brain. "You need to come here and fix this." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I made a terrible mistake. Just fix this." Because to Lisa, Catherine wasn't a sister anymore. She was customer service, a problem-solving hotline that never closed. And in that moment, Catherine realized Lisa hadn't called because she was scared. She called because the bill had arrived and she wanted to hand it to Catherine before the ink dried. When Catherine got to the crash scene, it was worse than she imagined. Blue and red lights bouncing off wet pavement, her gray Honda twisted against a bent street sign like a crushed soda can. Front bumper crumpled inward like an accordion, steam hissing from under the hood. Little pieces of plastic and glass glittering across the road like someone shook a snow globe full of bad decisions. One tire was bent at an angle that shouldn't be physically possible. Catherine knew, deep in her gut, that the car was probably totaled. And standing near the ambulance, wrapped in a blanket like she just survived a war, was Lisa. Looking. Small, looking wounded, looking perfectly staged. The moment Lisa saw Catherine, the tears got heavier. The volume went up, and Catherine, because old habits are hard to kill, ran to her first. "Are you hurt?" Lisa looked away. "I'm fine." "What happened?" Lisa's eyes flicked toward the police officer nearby. "Can you please not start?" That should have been Catherine's warning. But she was still in fix-it mode, still operating on the alarm. Belief that if she just handled this one more disaster, things would change. They never change. They only get more expensive. The officer walked over with his notepad, asked Catherine if she was the registered owner. She said yes. Then he asked the million-dollar question, "Did you give your sister permission to drive the car?" Catherine looked right at him and said, "No." His expression shifted. Not dramatically. Cops have seen everything. But enough. Then he looked at Lisa. And Lisa, I need you to understand this, immediately started crying harder, not apologizing, not explaining. She went straight into performance mode. "That's not true," she said, voice all trembly and wounded. "Catherine lets me use it all the time. She knew I had it tonight." Catherine turned to her, stunned. "What?" Lisa wouldn't even look at her, kept her eyes locked on the officer. "I texted her. She didn't say no until later. She always does this. Acts like she's helping, then when something goes wrong, she pretends she never agreed." It was a clean lie. That's what shocked Catherine the most. It wasn't messy or panicked. It was organized, built on just enough truth to sound believable. Yes, there were texts. Yes, Catherine had said, "Do not take my car." But Lisa was banking on the officer not caring enough to dig deeper. And honestly, a lot of cops wouldn't. A lot of cops would call it a family dispute and walk away. But this one didn't. Catherine pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "I have the messages," she said. "She texted me after she already took the car. I told her not to drive it, right here." She scrolled, found the thread, and showed the officer. And for the first time that night, Lisa's face changed. The tears didn't stop, but something behind her eyes went cold. Because she knew. She knew. The evidence was right there. The officer read the messages. The softness left his expression completely. He turned to Lisa and asked very calmly, "Did you have the owner's permission before operating the vehicle?" Lisa sobbed harder. "I thought I did. She's confusing me. She always makes me feel crazy." When the facts failed, she became fragile. That's another classic move. When you can't win on the truth, you win on emotion. Make yourself small. Make yourself sad. Make everyone around you feel like a bully for asking basic questions. Then Lisa went for the Hail Mary. "She gave me the keys earlier this week. She told me I could use it whenever because I'm going through something." Catherine's blood ran cold. Earlier that week, Lisa had been at her apartment crying about rent. Catherine had stepped into her bedroom for a work call. Her spare key had been hanging on the kitchen hook. The next morning it was gone, and Catherine had assumed she just misplaced it. Lisa had taken it. She had stolen it. And now she was standing in front of a police officer lying about it. Before Catherine could say another word, headlights swept across the scene. Another car pulled up. Her parents. They didn't ask what happened, didn't ask if Catherine was okay. They ran straight to Lisa. Her mom wrapped her arms around her like Lisa just escaped a kidnapping. Her dad looked at the wrecked car, then at Catherine and said, "What did you do?" Not, "What happened?" Not, "Are you okay?" "What did you do?" Catherine said, "She stole my spare key, took my car, crashed it, and now she's lying to the police." Her mom glared at her like she'd just confessed to arson. "How can you say that right now? Look at her. She's shaking." Catherine looked. She looked at her sister wrapped in a blanket she didn't need, hiding inside concern she hadn't earned. She looked at her parents already building a fortress around Lisa so no consequences could get in. And then she looked at her destroyed car, the thing she worked 5 years to pay off, and realized nobody in that family was protecting her. Not one person had asked if she was okay. Not one person had said, "This isn't right." So for the first time in her life, Catherine didn't soften her voice. She didn't apologize for existing. She looked at her dad and said, "I'm filing a report for unauthorized use, for the crash, and for the false statement if she keeps lying." Her mom gasped like Catherine had just slapped her. Her dad stepped closer, the kind of close that's supposed to be intimidating. "Don't you dare make this a criminal matter." Catherine didn't back up. She looked him right in the face and said she already did when she called the cops and lied about me. Then Lisa lifted her tearful face and whispered the line that told Catherine everything she needed to know about who her sister really was. "If you do this, you'll destroy me." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I made a terrible mistake." Not, "Please don't. I'll make it right." Just a threat dressed up as a plea. Because Lisa understood consequences perfectly. She just believed they were supposed to happen to other people. And in that moment, Catherine stopped feeling guilty. She stopped feeling torn. She felt something click into place, like a lock finally turning after years of being jammed. She wasn't destroying Lisa. Lisa had already destroyed Lisa. Catherine was just refusing to sweep up the pieces anymore. That's the thing people don't get about setting boundaries. The person who benefits from your silence will always call your voice destructive. But silence isn't peace, it's surrender. And Catherine was done surrendering. The next morning, Catherine's phone looked like a digital crime scene. 43 missed calls, 21 texts, 3 voicemails from her mom. Her dad sent one message that she read about 12 times because she couldn't believe anyone could type it with a straight face. "We need to talk before you ruin this family." Read that again. Not before she ruins this family. Not before she ruins your life. Before you ruin this family. In their version, the truth was the threat. Accountability was the weapon. Catherine's silence had been their peace. And now that she had finally spoken, they called it destruction. That's how you know you've been the family's emotional support animal for too long. The moment you stop carrying everyone else's weight, they don't thank you for the years you already carried. They scream at you for dropping it now. Catherine stared at that message for a long time. Then she didn't answer. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain herself one more time, hoping that this time they'd finally get it. She called her insurance company. She called her apartment office for security footage. She called a locksmith to change every lock on her apartment. Her hands shook the whole time, but she kept moving. For years, whenever Lisa created a disaster, Catherine would freeze emotionally and start solving practically. She'd shove her feelings into a box labeled "deal with later" and just handle the problem. That skill, the ability to stay calm while everything burns, had been trained into her by years of emergencies. But this time, she used that same skill for herself. She saved screenshots, downloaded call logs, wrote down a timeline while the night was still fresh in her mind. The text where she said, "Do not take my car." The ignored calls. the empty parking, space, the 1:48 a.m. crash call, the lie at the scene. By noon, she wasn't holding a story anymore. She was building a wall. And walls are useful. Walls keep people out. But they also give you something to lean on when you feel like falling apart. Then the parking lot footage came in. There was Lisa at 8:17 p.m. walking into Catherine's building with her hoodie pulled up like she was in a bad spy movie. She left 3 minutes later with the spare key in her hand. At 8:22, she unlocked Catherine's car and drove away. Catherine watched that clip 4 times. She had been called dramatic and too sensitive so many times that seeing actual video evidence felt like drinking cold water after years of being thirsty. Then Catherine did something she'd been avoiding. For years, she checked her bank transfers, all of them, rent payments, credit card bailouts, utilities, emergency loans, Cash App transfers with notes like, "Last time I swear," and "You're a lifesaver," and "I'll pay you back Friday, I promise." She had never added them all up because she was afraid of the number, afraid of what it would say about her, afraid of what it would say about her family. But she added them anyway. 4 years. Just under $38,000. $38,000. To someone who stood under police lights and tried to make Catherine responsible for her own crime. $38,000 to someone who texted, "You're always so dramatic," after stealing a car. That number changed something in Catherine. It wasn't about the money anymore, although the money was insane. It was about what the money represented. Every time she said yes when she wanted to say no. Every vacation she skipped. Every time she told herself she was being generous when really she was being used. $38,000 wasn't just a number. It was a mirror. And for the first time, Catherine didn't look away. At 4 p.m., her parents showed up at her apartment. Her doorbell camera showed her mom standing way too close to the lens, like she was trying to intimidate a Ring device. Her dad behind her with his arms folded. Catherine did not open the door. Her mom knocked anyway. "Catherine, stop hiding. We know you're in there." Her dad added, "This has gone far enough. Your sister is terrified." Of course she was terrified. Consequences had finally found her address. Catherine spoke through. The doorbell speaker didn't even unlock the deadbolt. "I'm not discussing this without a lawyer." Her mom's face twisted like she'd just bitten into a lemon. "A lawyer against your own sister?" "No," Catherine said. "For myself." Her dad leaned toward the camera. "Family is not a courtroom, Catherine," she answered. "Then stop treating me like I'm guilty without a trial." Her mom started crying. The frustrated kind of crying, not the sad kind. "She made a mistake. You can replace a car. You can't replace a sister." Catherine looked at the new deadbolt she'd installed that morning and said, "I'm not trying to replace her. I'm removing her access to me." They stayed for 12 minutes, knocking, begging, threatening. Finally, her dad dropped the hammer. "If you go through with this, don't expect us to stand by you." That was supposed to scare her. Instead, it clarified everything. They had never been standing by her. They had been standing on her, using her patience as the floor beneath their family fantasy. That evening, Catherine met with a lawyer named Jane Ellis. Jane was the kind of woman who didn't waste words. She listened, took notes, asked precise questions. Did Lisa live with Catherine? No. Did she have written permission to use the vehicle? No. Did Catherine have proof she told Lisa not to take it? Yes. Did Lisa have a history of borrowing money and not paying it back? Catherine almost laughed. Yes. Then Catherine showed Jane the parking footage. Jane said, "This is important." Showed her the texts. Jane said, "This is better." Showed her the bank transfers, the $38,000 spread across 4 years. Jane exhaled and said something that hit Catherine like a truck. "Catherine, this is not one incident. This is a pattern. Pattern not bad luck, not family drama, not, she's just going through a hard time, a pattern. Jane explained Catherine's options: cooperate with the police, file a civil claim for damages not covered by insurance, send a formal demand letter for documented loans, and require the family to stop contacting her directly. Then Jane said the line Catherine would repeat to herself for months afterward. People who benefit from your silence rarely applaud when you start speaking. Catherine asked Jane if she was being cruel. Jane looked at her, not with pity, but with respect, and said, "Cruelty is not refusing to carry someone else's consequences. Cruelty is asking you to carry them forever." Catherine left Jane's office with a folder in her hand and a strange calm in her chest. Her sister had given the police a lie. Her parents had given her an ultimatum. So Catherine decided to give them a little gift in return. Every receipt, every message, every video clip, every transfer, every piece of truth they had spent years pretending not to see. The gift wasn't dramatic at first. It was a binder, a simple black binder with labeled tabs. Tab 1, the car. Tab 2, texts. Tab 3, money. Tab 4, witnesses. Tab 5, boundaries. Catherine printed the parking lot stills showing Lisa taking the spare key. Printed the texts where she said, "Do not take my car." Printed the police incident number, the insurance claim, and 4 years of transfers. She didn't expect every dollar back, but she wanted her parents to see the size of the hole they kept asking her to fill. She wanted them to hold the weight in their hands, because for years the weight had only been hers. Jane sent a formal letter to Lisa demanding she preserve all communications related to the accident and stop making false statements about Catherine's consent. She sent another letter to Catherine's parents explaining that threats, pressure, and interference needed to stop. The language was polite, professional, and colder than ice water. It was the kind of letter that doesn't yell at you. It just hands you the rope and waits to see what you do with it. Lisa reacted exactly how you'd expect. First came panic calls, ignored, then insults, ignored, then the victim posts. She wrote online, "Crazy how family can turn on you when you're already at your lowest." She didn't mention the stolen key, didn't mention the crash, didn't mention the police or the lie. Just vague sadness, perfectly packaged for sympathy. And Catherine's mom shared the post. That hurt. Not gonna lie. That stung. But it didn't stop Catherine. Because she had learned something important. Other people's opinions of her boundaries were not her responsibility. Then Lisa made her second mistake. She messaged Catherine directly. "If you don't drop this, I'll tell everyone you gave me permission and changed your story for insurance money. That's called threats in writing." Catherine forwarded it to Jane and did not reply. Best thing she ever did. 2 days later, Lisa's story started cracking like a phone screen on concrete. The officer requested the parking footage. The insurance adjuster requested the police report and Catherine's statement. The apartment manager confirmed Lisa was not authorized to take anything from Catherine's unit. A neighbor remembered seeing Lisa leave in the car because he'd been walking his dog and thought it was strange she was driving so fast through the lot. Every detail Lisa thought would stay hidden came marching into the light. Catherine's parents called Jane's office instead of calling Catherine directly. Her dad demanded a family meeting. Jane told him Catherine was willing to meet in a neutral place with her present if and only if the purpose was repayment and boundaries, not emotional pressure. He agreed. The meeting happened in Jane's conference room. Her parents arrived stiff and offended, like they were the ones who'd had their car stolen. Lisa arrived late, wearing sunglasses indoors, and refused to look at the binder, sitting on the table like a black bomb. Jane summarized the facts. No emotion, no drama, just the car was taken without permission. The spare key was removed from Catherine's apartment. Lisa crashed the vehicle. There were conflicting statements at the scene. Catherine's dad interrupted twice. Jane shut him down both times with a calm, "Please let me finish," that somehow sounded more terrifying than yelling. Then Jane opened the binder. She slid copies across the table. The text where Catherine said, "Do not take my car." The image of Lisa leaving with the key. The timestamp of the car leaving the lot. The crash report. And the threatening message Lisa sent afterward. Lisa's face changed with every page. "Why are you doing this to me?" she whispered. Catherine finally answered. Not loud, not angry, just tired and done. "Because you did it to yourself and tried to hand me the punishment." Then Jane turned to the money section. Catherine's dad frowned. "What is this?" Catherine said, "Everything I paid while you told me helping her was my responsibility." Her mom reached for the pages, eyes moving down the columns. Rent, credit card debt, utilities, emergency transfer. Emergency transfer. Emergency transfer. The total at the bottom, $38,000, made her hand tremble. "Catherine," she whispered. "I didn't know it was this much." Catherine looked at her and said something that landed like a gut punch. "You didn't ask because not knowing made it easier." Lisa snapped, "So now you're keeping score." Catherine didn't flinch. "No, I'm showing the scoreboard you built." Jane explained the proposed resolution. Lisa would cooperate with the investigation. Correct any false statement about permission. Accept responsibility for the deductible and damages not covered by insurance. Sign a repayment agreement for part of the documented loans. And stop contacting Catherine directly. Lisa laughed. Not a happy laugh, a mean one. "I'm not signing anything." Jane nodded. "That is your choice. Then we proceed formally." That's when Catherine's dad finally turned to Lisa. Not a glance, a full turn. "Did you take the spare key?" he asked. Lisa froze. Her mom whispered her name, and in that tiny silence, the family myth cracked wide open. Lisa didn't confess in some dramatic movie moment. She did something worse. For herself. She attacked. "I took it because she never helps unless she can control people. She wanted me to beg. She always wants me to beg." Her mom flinched. Her dad closed his eyes. Jane wrote something down. Catherine sat very still because she understood what had just happened. Lisa had admitted taking the key. She wrapped it in blame, but the truth was right there inside it. Jane looked up. "So you removed the spare key from Catherine's apartment without her permission?" Lisa realized too late. "That's not what I meant." Her dad said her name again, low and dangerous, and Lisa turned on him. "Don't start acting shocked. You always told me Catherine would fix it." The room went silent, because there it was. The secret underneath their entire family system, spoken by the person who benefited most from it. "You always told me Catherine would fix it." Catherine's parents had trained Lisa to see her as the backup plan, and they had trained Catherine to be ashamed if she refused. The meeting ended without Lisa signing anything. She stormed out, calling Catherine a monster in the hallway. Her parents stayed behind. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Catherine's mom reached across the table like she wanted to touch her hand, but stopped halfway. "Catherine, I'm sorry," she said. The apology landed, but not deep. Maybe because it was late. Maybe because some apologies aren't bridges. They're just markers showing where the bridge used to be. Catherine said, "I'm not ready to forgive you." Her mom nodded, crying harder. Her dad looked like he wanted to argue, then didn't. That was new. Catherine continued, "I'm not dropping the report. I'm not paying another bill for her. I'm not taking calls about her emergencies. If you choose to keep rescuing her, that's your decision. But my money, my home, my car, and my name are..." no longer part of the rescue plan. Her voice didn't shake. She noticed that. They noticed too. The formal process moved faster after that. Lisa's insurance situation was a mess because she wasn't listed on Catherine's policy and had no permission to drive. Catherine's insurance covered part of the loss after investigation, but the deductible and remaining costs became a civil matter. Catherine didn't try to control whether the charges became serious or not. That was important. She didn't need to destroy Lisa. She just needed to stop protecting her from the truth. But consequences have a way of stacking when someone has spent years dodging them. Lisa lost her apartment because the money she expected from Catherine never came. She called their parents, but they were already drowning in their own bills after years of helping her in smaller ways. She tried to borrow from friends, but her online sympathy campaign backfired when one of them saw Lisa's threatening message in the documents Catherine provided during the civil claim. People started asking questions. Not publicly at first. Quietly, privately. The kind of questions that ruin a carefully built victim story. A week later, Lisa sent Catherine an email. Subject line, "You win." Catherine didn't open it right away. Her first instinct was to feel guilty, which made her angry at herself. Even after everything, some part of her still wanted to check if Lisa was okay. Trauma doesn't disappear because you make one strong decision. Patterns don't vanish because you finally name them. Catherine sat with her laptop open for 10 minutes, before forwarding the email to Jane unopened. Jane later told her it wasn't an apology. It was a demand disguised as one. Lisa wanted Catherine to sign a statement saying the car situation had been a misunderstanding so she could avoid long-term damage. She also wrote that if Catherine loved her, she wouldn't let one bad night define her future. One bad night. That phrase stayed with Catherine. It was never one bad night. It was 4 years of payments, a stolen key, a wrecked car, a false statement, a family trained to look away. 2 weeks later, Catherine's parents asked to meet for coffee. She almost said no. Then she went, not because she owed them, but because she wanted to hear what they would say without Lisa in the room. Her mom looked nervous. Her dad looked humbled in a way Catherine had never seen. He said, "We failed you." Not, "We all made mistakes." Not, "Things got out of hand." "We failed you." Catherine stared at her coffee because looking at him hurt. Her mom said they had started helping Lisa find a payment plan, but they weren't giving her money directly anymore. They had told Lisa she needed counseling, financial guidance, and legal accountability. Catherine didn't know if it would last. She still doesn't. But it was the first time they spoke about Lisa as an adult responsible for her own life. Then her mom asked, "What can we do to make this right with you?" That question should have felt good. Instead, it felt impossible. Catherine said, "You can stop asking me to return to a role that was killing me." Her dad nodded slowly. Her mom cried again. Catherine did not comfort her. That might sound cold, but it was one of the hardest things she'd ever done. She had spent her whole life managing everyone else's emotions. That day, she let her mom have hers without making them her job. The final fallout came 3 months. Later in a courtroom conference room. Not a dramatic trial with a packed audience. Real consequences are quieter than people expect. Lisa looked tired. Not fake tired. Truly tired. The sunglasses were gone. The attitude was weaker. She had a public defender for the related matter and had agreed to a resolution that included restitution, a corrected statement, community service, and mandatory counseling. On the civil side, she signed a repayment agreement for the deductible and a portion of the documented money she had borrowed under clear promises to repay. Not the full $38,000. Catherine never expected that. The money mattered, but it wasn't the point anymore. The point was that for once, Lisa's signature was under her own consequences instead of Catherine's. Before signing, Lisa looked at Catherine and said, "Are you happy now?" The old Catherine would have explained herself, would have said, "No, of course not. I never wanted this. I love you. I'm sorry it got this far." She would have tried to soften the truth so Lisa could swallow it without choking. But Catherine was no longer willing to chew reality for her sister. She simply said, "I'm free now." Lisa looked away first. Catherine's parents came with Lisa that day, but they didn't sit beside her in the same protective way. Her mom hugged herself. Her dad kept his hands folded. When Lisa tried to blame them in the hallway, "You're really letting her do this to me?" Her dad said 3 words. Simple. Late. Necessary. "You did this." Lisa stared at him like he had spoken a foreign language. Maybe accountability did sound foreign to her. She had lived so long in a home where love meant rescue that anything else felt like cruelty. After everything was signed, Jane walked Catherine to the elevator. She asked how Catherine felt. Catherine thought about lying and saying relieved. She was relieved. But that wasn't the whole truth. She felt grief, too. She had lost a car, money, trust, and the fantasy that her family would protect her if the truth was obvious enough. She had also lost the version of herself who believed love had to be proven through self-destruction. That loss hurt, but it also made room. The little gift Catherine gave her family hadn't been revenge, not in the way Lisa imagined. Catherine didn't scream secrets at a family dinner, didn't destroy Lisa online, didn't chase humiliation for entertainment. She gave them evidence. She gave them silence where they expected panic. She gave them boundaries where they expected guilt. She gave them the truth in a binder so organized they couldn't fold it into another excuse. And that gift changed everything. Her car was declared a total loss. The insurance payout wasn't perfect, but it was enough for her to buy another used car after adding some savings. The first time she drove it home, she cried in the parking lot, not because of the car itself, but because no one had a key to it, except her. That small fact felt enormous. She changed her emergency contacts, opened a new savings account at a different bank, stopped sharing subscriptions, passwords, cards, explanations, turned her phone on Do Not Disturb every night at 10 p.m. At first, the quiet felt unnatural. Then it felt like oxygen. Catherine and her parents are still rebuilding, slowly, unevenly. They invite her to dinner now without mentioning Lisa's problems. Sometimes her mom catches herself about to say, she's struggling, and then stops. Her dad once asked Catherine if she needed help with anything. When she said no, he didn't look disappointed. That might sound small, but in that family, small changes are sometimes the only believable ones. Catherine doesn't trust easily anymore, but she watches patterns. Apologies are words. Patterns are proof. Lisa did try to reach out again. Birthdays, holidays, random late-night emails with subject lines like, "Please read" and "I miss us." Catherine didn't answer most of them. Once, months later, Lisa sent a message that simply said, "I'm in counseling. I know I hurt you." Catherine read that one, didn't reply right away. Maybe someday there will be a conversation. Maybe there won't. Forgiveness isn't a door people get to kick open because they finally found the right words. It's something Catherine gets to decide from the safe side of the lock. People still ask Catherine if she thinks she went too far. The police report, the lawyer, the repayment agreement. They imagine she chose punishment over family. But that's not what happened. Lisa called the cops on Catherine after crashing her car. Her parents took Lisa's side before asking for the truth. Catherine didn't create the fire. She just stopped letting them use her life as the water bucket. So no, she doesn't regret it. She regrets waiting so long. Regrets every time she confused being needed with being loved. Regrets teaching people that her boundaries were negotiable if they cried hard enough. But she does not regret the binder, does not regret the lawyer, does not regret the report, and definitely does not regret the moment she stopped saving someone who was willing to let her drown. Because sometimes the family you keep protecting is not protecting you back. Sometimes the person calling you cruel is only angry because you stopped being useful. And sometimes the greatest revenge isn't ruining anyone's life. It's taking your own life back so completely that they can no longer reach the parts of you they used to control. And that's the story, y'all. That's what happens when you stop being the family's emergency fund, emotional punching bag, and personal fixer all rolled into one. If you made it this far, you already know someone in your life who needs to hear this, or someone you need to set a boundary with. This is the Payback Vault, the only channel where we serve justice cold and consequences hot. If you want more stories about people who stopped playing nice and started playing smart, hit that subscribe button right now. Tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. And leave a comment. Tell me, have you ever had to cut off a family member financially, or are you still the one everyone calls when stuff hits the fan? I read every comment. Like this video if you think Catherine did the right thing. Share it with someone who needs to hear that saying no doesn't make you a villain. It makes you free. I'll see you in the next vault. Until then, remember, keep your spare keys close, your receipts closer, and never let anyone mistake your kindness for ownership. Peace.